Testing. Dạ, con kính bạch sư ông, con kính thưa quý thầy, quý sư cô và đại chúng. So dear respected sư ông, dear respected brother and sister in the community. This is the second part of the Dharma talk. The first part of the Dharma talk is the guided meditation. So please, if you would like to listen to this Dharma talk, please practice the guided meditation first, because that is the first part of the Dharma talk. This is the second part. The second part of the Dharma talk try to offer some thought about decision-making process. We are living in a very uncertain time in the world. There are so many uncertainty concerning our life. And we have to make certain decisions for our life, for our family, for our community, for our nation. And what are the foundation for our decision? How can we make a decision? To live is to make decision, because we have to make a choice in order to live in a certain way. At every moment of our life, we have to make that decision. If you've been watching our talk on the day of mindfulness, you will see in the back of the speaker there is a picture with the sun, with the ocean, and so on. But today you see a beautiful blue cloth, piece of cloth. So we have decided to change the picture into this piece of cloth. And who make that decision? Who has the right to make that decision? Does everyone in the community agree to make that decision to change the cloth? Or who make the decision? What is the best decision? Should we keep the picture, or should we have the piece of cloth? Certainly there are views that we should keep the picture, and there are views that we should have the piece of cloth. And both of the views are valid. But we have to decide it one way or another. It's very beautiful cloth. Anyway, thank you so much, sister, for suggesting and making it happen. There are certain logic for us to make the decision in our life. A certain logic, certain ways, based on our education, based on our background, based on our past conditioning, our old experience, and we have decided to go in this direction. When we learn to relax our body, we feel our body and we relax our body, and we allow the energy to sink down, allowing the negative energy to flow through and sink down and releasing it into the earth. We continue this process of releasing the energy, the tension in our body. But how deep can we go in order to relax our body? What is the deepest state of peace, of calmness within our body that we can attain? Is there an absolute peace that we have to reach? Absolute peace, absolute calmness that we have to reach after a long time of meditation. Let's say we have a difficulty and we practice sitting meditation and we sit as long as we can in order to attain peace. But how far can we go down? How far can we sink the energy down in order to feel absolute peace, absolute calm in our body? Or sometime on the way down, we have to decide to stop the process and go out and to make some food for our family, to cook our lunch today. Otherwise, the family would not have lunch. We learn to take good care of our health. We take vitamin, multivitamin every day. We take all kind of medicine nowadays in order to feel good in our body. But how much medicine do we have to take in order to be peaceful? How many doctors that we have to see in order to have health, good health in our body? How many dentists, internal medical doctor, heart doctor, kidney doctor, how many ultrasound, x-ray, psychotherapist, psychologist that we have to see in order to attain the deepest peace within us. All of that concerning decision making. How do we conduct ourselves in our daily life? How many food that we should buy for the community? How much clean should we clean the meditation hall? When I first came in, I see some dirt on the meditation hall floor. And I thought, oh, and I noticed right away, and I see, perhaps the floor was not clean completely this morning. But perhaps the sister and brother already cleaned the meditation hall. But it just happened that at that spot, there's some dirt. How perfect should we clean the floor? What is the degree of perfection that we have to do everything? So that is the thing that we contemplate. If there's a certain absolute way in this direction, and there is absolute another direction. This is the down direction, and this is the up direction. This could be the right direction. This could be the wrong direction. For example, this could be a good direction. This could be a bad direction. How should we choose? How should we base our decision for our life? Nowadays, we see that from time to time there are demonstrations to stop social distancing so that economy can return to its normal state. And in America, there is uprising concerning civil rights. There are so many things that we have to make the decision in our life. What are the political party that we should join? Should we join the Republic or the Democratic, or should we join the CSD? Is it CSD in Germany? CSU and Green Party and other party, SPD and so on. What are the political camp that we have to be in order for us to be happy? In this uncertain time, we have to face the uncertain world and we have to make certain decisions. And it's so difficult to make a decision because we all have different views about the situation. And how should we judge the situation in order for us to make a good decision? We have to judge the situation in a certain way in order to follow a certain direction. And how do we judge the situation? What are the factors that we judge the situation? Many times we judge the situation based on our judgment about risk. To take a risk. In order to make a decision, we have to take a risk. And making a decision is making a risk concerning our life, our survival. And that's how we have been conditioned throughout the evolution time. We take a decision because it will reduce the risk of damage ourselves, the risk of having a potential to our survival, to our existence. We take a risk. So make So we make a decision based on making some risk concerning our life. The risk of survival, the risk of being trapped, our existence being trapped. Being trapped, being threatened. Being threatened. And that is the situation that we are in right now in the world. The world is in a very uncertain situation because of the outbreak. We would like to serve, we would like to help, but there's a chance that the moment we go out, there could be an infection. And this fear about being infected dominate our thinking, dominating our way of making a decision. And it caused so much division in the family, in the community, in the society, and in the nation. And we ask the question, who has the right to make the decision about my life? Is it a president of the country? Is it the prime minister? Is it the Congress, the parliament, the Senate, the local government, the health official, or a director of an institution? Who can make a decision for our life? In America, there are demonstrations and people even holding guns, ready to fight, and asking the government to stop the social distancing. It's very difficult. And in our community, it's the same. We are all monks and nuns. We are all monastic. And we all have the ideal to practice and to serve the community. And each one of us have a different idea, different view about our practice and how to serve the community. And we are facing the same issue, the same difficulty like the people outside. At the beginning of March, we met to make the decision whether we should have a course or should we close the institute. Some people want to continue to open the institute, to offer their life and the service to the community. There are risks concerning being infected, but there are people who are willing to take the risk and to offer the courses. But there are people who are fearful and who do not want to take that risk. So the community has to meet and to make the decision. So as a community, we decide that we have to close the institute. Then we met again in April to discuss about May, whether we should open the institute at the beginning of May or not. And again, as a community, we decided that we have to close until the end of May. And we will discuss again after when the time comes. And again, when May comes, we discuss about June. So we open the institute in June or not in June, in the middle of June. And again, the committee agreed that we should not open in June. And finally, the committee opened up and agreed to open in the middle of July. There are certain risks involved, yes. The moment we step down on our feet, the moment we wake up, there are risks of being hit by some object. We will have some risk of eating some poison food. We will have the risk to drink some toxic water. All kinds of risk. There is a very interesting story that there is this man who practiced fortune teller, that he read the astrology to see what happened in his day. because some people believe that what happened is already determined, it's been fixed. During the time of the Buddha, there was this teacher, quite famous teacher of Jainism. His name is Mahavira. And he has a student. His student is Makkhali Gosala. And Gosala is a very interesting student. He always tests his teacher, and he doesn't listen to his teacher. He always tests the teacher. So, according to the legend, Mahavira already attained some degree of understanding and wisdom, some degree of enlightenment. So he knows what will happen. So on that day, Mahavira and Gosala walked by a tree, walked by a bush, and the bush is there in its good state, and Gosala asked his teacher Mahavira, "What do you think? Next year will this tree be here?" Well, Mahavira looked at the tree and he looked at the tree is in good condition, so naturally he said, yes, the tree continue to be here for next year. So the two teacher and student, they walk along the road, and while they are stopping at some place, Gosala sneaked out. He went back to the tree and he uprooted the tree to prove that his teacher will be wrong. That next year when they come back, the tree will not be there. That means that his vision about reality is not correct. So Gosala uprooted the tree, lay it there, and smiled and said, Mahavira will be wrong. Next time when we come here, the tree will not be there anymore. So they walk around, have some teaching and practice. And then some time later, they return. And according to Gosala, he was so surprised. The tree was still there, fully blossomed. As Mahavira had predicted, the tree will live for a long time. It turned out that after Gosala uprooted the tree, and after they left for some time, there was some rain, big rain, and thanks to the rain, the tree somehow take root onto the earth, and it grow again. But Gosala think because of that incident, he come up with a theory of fatalism. That means everything had been decided, and we just have to follow the course of our destination. We cannot choose otherwise. We don't have any choice in our life. Once we are born, we will go on a certain way until we die. There's no way to change our life. And there's some people who believe like that, and they believe in the fortune teller, astrological reading. There are certain things, that certain conditions are there, and things will happen in that way. So there's this story, someone who read the astrological data, and it's going to be very bad for his day. So he decided to stay in his house. He just stayed in his house, but then when he walked to the door in the front, there is a bird come in from outside, hit him. And then when he go to the back of the door, something misfortune happened to him too. So regardless of where he go, the astrological data is correct. He cannot avoid his misfortune. So sometimes we believe that things had been decided. And so, but the Buddha offer a teaching for us concerning risk, concerning facing uncertainty in our life. And the teaching of the Buddha on how to base our decision, how to make a decision, is based on the teaching of the middle way. I'm going to read the sutra on the discourse on the middle way. It's a very deep sutra, and we can contemplate about it, and it can be a foundation for how we make a decision for our life. Discourse on the middle ways. I heard these words of the Buddha one time when the Lord was staying at the guest house in a forest of the district of Nala. At that time, the Venerable Kaccayana came to visit him and asked, "The Tathagata has spoken of right view. How would the Tathagata describe right view?" The Buddha told the venerable monks, "People in the world tend to believe in one of two views, the view of being or the view of non-being. That is because they are bound to wrong perception. It is wrong perception that leads to the concepts of being and non-being. Kaccayana, most people are bound to the internal formations of discrimination and preference, grasping and attachment. Those who are not bound to the internal knots of grasping and attachment no longer imagine and cling to the idea of a self. They understand, for example, that suffering comes to be when conditions are favorable, and that it fades away when conditions are no longer favorable. They no longer have any doubt. Their understanding has not come to them through others. It is their own insight. This insight is called right view, and this is the way the Tathagata Their understanding has not come to them through others. It is their own insight. This insight is called right view. And this is the way the Tathagata would describe right view. How is this so? When a person who has correct insight observes the coming to be of the world, the idea of non-being does not arise in her. And when she observes the fading away of the world, the idea of being does not arise in her mind. Kaccayana, viewing the world as being is an extreme. Viewing it as non-being is not an extreme. The Tathagata avoids these two extremes and teach the Dharma dwelling in the middle way. The middle way says that this is because that is. This is not because that is not. Because there is ignorance, there are impulses. Because there are impulses, there is consciousness. Because there is consciousness, there is psychisoma. Because there is psychisoma, there are the six senses. Because there are the six senses, there is contact. Because there is contact, there is a feeling. Because there is feeling, there is a craving. Because there is craving, there is a grasping. Because there is a grasping, there is becoming. Because there is becoming, there is birth. Because there is birth, there are always death, grief, and sorrow. That is how this entire mass of suffering arises. But with the fading away of ignorance, impulses ceases. With the fading away of impulses, consciousness ceases. And finally, birth, always death, grief, and sorrow will fade away. That is how this entire mass of suffering ceases. After listening to the Buddha, the Venerable Kaccayana was enlightened and liberated from sorrow. He was able to untie all of his internal knot and attain Arahatship. Samyutta Agama 301. The key point of the discourse on the middle way is that people in the world tend to believe in one of two views: the view of being or the view of non-being. That is because they are bound to wrong perception. It is the wrong perception that leads to the concept of being and non-being. Kaccayana, most people are bound to the internal formation of discrimination and preference, grasping and attachment. So that is the mechanism. There are grasping and attachment. So this is how it works. There is grasping and attachment. These are the internal formation. And these grasping and attachment give rise to the internal formation. Internal formation of discrimination, and preference. And from this, there are wrong perception, and finally From this wrong perception, it gives rise to the view of being and the view of non-being. So you can see this grasping and attachment is like the root of the tree. The root of the tree, grasping and attachment, and it gives rise to internal formation of discrimination and preference. The tree grow up, and there's the trunk. And from the trunk, there come branches. And then there come different leaves. The leaf of being and the leaf of non-being. That's how the whole process happens. And what are the grasping and attachment? The grasping and attachment are due to our desire to survive. The Buddha called it attached to a self. That is our survival need. Our existential desire. We want to existential desire. We want to exist as long as possible. At the cost of other people, other living beings. We want to preserve our existence and ready to sacrifice other people's existence. That is our grasping and attachment. We want to survive. Facing the world of uncertainty, facing this coronavirus, everyone felt that their existence has been threatened. Felt that they have to do something in order to protect themselves. I remember there is an opinion in our first meeting in our community. Some brothers and sisters said that during the war of Vietnam, Thầy and Sister Chan Khong go out and try to help to save people, even though there is a war going on. And they take the risk of losing their life to call for peace, to call for reconciliation, and to help the poor people in the village to rebuild their village. So there are some brothers and sisters willing to go out and to offer courses, even though they can be infected. But there are other opinions in the community said that the best way to offer our compassion at this time is to remain inside the monastery and close down the monastery, so that we won't cause so much trouble for ourselves and we won't cause so much trouble for the people around us. Both views are valid. The first view concerning of taking the risk to be infected, and the second view doesn't want to take that risk to protect the community. They are all valid. There's nothing right or wrong about it. The Buddha said that when the conditions are sufficient, things manifest. That means when the risking conditions are reducing to a certain degree, then things begin to manifest again. The community decided to open the institute again in the middle of July because the risk can be lower to a certain degree. It doesn't mean that there's no risk. When the community open again, there will be people who come and there could be infection and the whole community can be infected. It's a difficult decision to make, but we have to make a decision. We have to judge between being and non-being. And to see when the conditions are favorable. There is not a fixed way. We have to close the institute or we have to open the institute. We have to judge the condition. Some of our brothers and sisters said that why should EIAB open? Why Plum Village is closed from now until the end of the years? But Plum Village, the condition of Plum Village are different from the condition of EIAB. Plum Village opened big retreat for 700 people, for thousands of people. EIB have cooks for 5 people, 10 people. At the most, at our summer retreat, we limit to 100 friends. It doesn't mean that 5 people, there's no risk. 10 people does not have risk, or 100 people does not have risk. The risk is a bit lower, but that doesn't mean that there's no risk. But we have to make a decision. We have to take a decision. Because we are a part of the community. Now in Germany, schools are opening up, markets are opening up. All of the public institutions are slowly open up. So EIB is also a public institution. We are a non-profit organization. And our ideal, our intention is to serve people, to help people in this critical time. Who's going to make that decision? Who's responsible for making that decision? Is the director of the institute or the majority of the brother and sister in the community? Who can make that decision? And how do we judge? We decide to close in March. We decide to close in April. We decide to close in May, and we decide to close in June. And then we open in July. Can we make everyone happy? What will happen if there is an outbreak in EIB and many brothers and sisters got infected? And some of us might even pass away. That will be a very painful thing. At home, you are facing the same kind of decision. Should you go out to work? Should you go to the restaurant to eat? Should you take a vacation in another country? To visit your grandfather, grandmother in another city? We all have to make that decision. And the Buddha advised us that we should not go into the idea of being or non-being. Being and non-being come from our wrong perception, and that wrong perception all the way based on our grasping and attachment to an idea of a fixed, separated identity called a self. We fix ourselves on this separate identity. And we try our best to protect this identity, we protect this self. We try our best to protect ourselves as if we don't have any connection to other people around us. There is no connection to other people, and we make the decision only based on ourselves. But a spiritual practice offered by some enlightened being is that we are not only ourselves, we are also the other. We are our family, we are our community, we are our society, we are our nation, and we are the world. We are this whole cosmos. And we learn to open our heart to consider all the people in our process of making a decision. It's completely fine to close the institute until the end of the year. Yes, we can do that. But then, should we ask ourselves, are we taking other people into the consideration of our making decision? Are we considering our friends who need help, who want to have a refuge place to come and to practice and to be together with us? And what are the risks that we have to open our institute in order to receive other friends? During the war in Vietnam, Thầy and Sister Chân Không take all risk, to go beyond all risk in order to offer their life. And that is the action of someone who is enlightened. They can go beyond any risk to achieve something that can benefit others. And that is something that we have to learn, and we have to learn to open our heart. There are some risks, there are certain risks. But because of the benefit of the other, we have to learn and to open our heart for the other. When Thầy want to establish this institute, he was taking a risk. From my limited view, at that time, I thought that Thầy should not lead, Thầy should not open up this institute, because there are no Dharma teacher, many Dharma teacher in Plum Village. There are not many monastic Dharma teacher who can lead courses. Our monastic brothers and sisters, they like to lead the retreat. They are happy to give a Dharma talk, and they enter back to their solo retreat. Leading a course for a few days can be quite difficult. And if you have to have one topic to another topic, and you have to be at the institute all the time instead of going around to lead the retreat, it's quite boring. Financially, we might take some risk because we do not have enough finance to set up an institute. We don't have enough manpower. We do not have enough Dharma teacher power. We do not have enough financial power. So why should we open up an institute? But Thầy is willing to take that risk, because he's thinking about the other. He's thinking about the future. He's thinking about long term. The institute in 100 years from now. The institute in several hundred years from now. The future generation, and not only this generation. So, taking risk is is something that we have to think and to consider. When we open our heart and to include the other person in our decision making, then we can feel very safe and at peace regardless what happened. Many friends might ask, do I love the monastic brother and sister of EIAB? I said, yes, I do love the brother and sister in EIAB. And then if you open it up and some of the brother and sister got sick and some of them might pass away, what do you think? Do you still love them? Yes, I still love them. I take the chance, and it would be very painful to see if some brother and sister got sick and some even pass away. But that is life. That is a process of living. The moment we go and lead a retreat in Italy, yesterday we had an online meeting with the Italian Sangha. During this time of June and July, supposedly I and Sister Songim and some brother and sister will go to Italy to lead the retreat in Bari and Palermo. But this year, due to the coronavirus outbreak, we couldn't go there, so we have the online meeting. Every year, whenever I went to the airport, to get onto the airport, you know what I do? I pray Avalokitesvara, the Bodhisattva of great compassion. Because the moment you get onto the airplane, you take a risk. Who knows that you will land down to Bari or Palermo? We take a risk. But sometimes we don't bring that risk up onto the surface. It does not become a part of our conscience. This time, because of coronavirus outbreak, there is this awareness, and the coronavirus appear on our surface of our consciousness. But in 1 or 2 years or 3 years from now, if there is some coronavirus accident somewhere, we feel normal. We don't feel anything we don't feel any danger that is imposing on us. We get used to it. Just like we get used to HIV nowadays, we get used to the polio virus, tuberculosis, and so on. We will get used to the coronavirus outbreak. And we get used to the coronavirus, and it will become a part of our life, a part of our risk. The moment we go out, there will be a chance that we get the COVID-19 disease in the future. But it become a part of our life. It become normal. Just nowadays, every year there's a flu. And there are thousands of people in Germany who pass away from flu. But it does not become a major obstacle for us. Because that's how we perceive the risk. We perceive the danger. It doesn't mean that we should be risky. Then we fall in the view of non-being. We risk our life to go out and do whatever we like. Then that is not responsible neither. We will do everything as much as possible to be responsible for our life, as well as to be responsible for all the friends. Yesterday or the day before, there were some journalists who came to interview us. And the journalist and the photographer had the mask on. And our Sister Chiếu Nghiêm and Sister Quyền Diệu are very kind. Sister Tăng Quyền Diệu and Sister Chiếu Nghiêm were very kind. When they see me and Sister Song Nghiêm hosted the journalist and the photographer, they went out and they offered tea and cookie. I don't know whether they are thinking about the risk of being infected with the coronavirus at that time. But they do with all of their heart, as if nothing will happen. We have the mask on, and then when we enter into the room and there's enough distance between us, we take out the mask so that we can have an easier conversation. We all take risk. We all take risk. And there's no perfect solution for either our mental peace or our physical peace, for our mental health as well as our physical health. One day we will die. Absolutely we will die. Whether we like it or not, one day we will die. And according to Buddhism, if you have to die because of the coronavirus, then don't be worried, because there will be rebirth. Depend on what you like to be born again. If you want to be born again as a beautiful person again, beautiful human person again, then you need to cultivate human quality, the quality of goodness, the quality of compassion, the quality of joy and peace. And if you want to be reborn as a hungry ghost, then you have a lot of desire, you have a lot of attachment. And if you want to be born as an angry God, then try to have a lot of resistance, try to have a lot of violence, a lot of hatred, then you will be born as an angry God. And if you want to be born as a Bodhisattva, then you might want to cultivate the intention of loving others as loving yourself, to help others as helping yourself. So depend on what you want to be reborn in. You can cultivate that now. And then if you got struck by the coronavirus, you will be reborn accordingly. Perhaps next lifetime, you will be in a much more better condition than this lifetime. So don't worry. And if you are a scientist and you follow the perspective of modern science, that there's no other life except this life, there's only one single life, then if you follow that faith, that idea of life, then enjoy your life as much as possible and learn to let go of the fear, because being fearful does not help you from now until the day that you die. Learn to be happy, learn to be joyful, because every moment that you are happy, you deserve that happiness. You should deserve happiness for your life instead of deserving pain and sorrow, because you only have one life to live. Why you should deserve pain and sorrow? Because you have only one life. So learn to enjoy, learn to be happy, learn to be peaceful as much as possible. So in either way, you are reborn again, or you have one life to live. Try to make the best out of your faith, your belief, and learn to live accordingly. And learn to open your heart to include other people into your decision making. I think that will make you quite peaceful. There is So to live is to face risk. There are all kinds of risks in our life. The risk of having heart attack, the risk of having high blood pressure, the risk of having a stroke, all kinds of risk. The risk of having accident on the road, of having having a airplane that is cracked on the air, broken. There's all kinds of risk. And to live means open your heart and to accept the risk. Another end is living a life of being dangerous for ourselves and dangerous for the other. Those are the two extremes, that we are too fearful because of the risk, and without any fear and being very risky. The Buddha advised us not to follow that way, but learn to go on the middle way. Learn to take some risk and learn to think of the other. Learn to open our heart and to include other people in our way of living. And instead of having right decision or wrong decision, it is an appropriate decision depending on condition. There's no right decision, there's no wrong decision, there's only appropriate decision with a certain amount of risk. And we have to take some appropriate decision for our life, depending on our judgment of risk. And we learn to live in harmony with everyone. It's not easy. It's not easy to make a decision. It's very difficult for a president of the country to make the decision. It's very difficult for a prime minister of a country to make the decision. It's very difficult for a congress, for a parliament to make a decision. And it's difficult for any leader of the community to make a decision. But we all have to make a decision. And when we look at our decision, we ask ourselves, do I include other friends in my way of making the decision? Do I open my heart to other people? Do I consider other people in my decision? Or only me, the center of everything in my decision process? That is something that we should contemplate. And the discourse on the middle way help us very much. Sometimes it's quite very painful to make a decision. Sometimes it's very painful to make a decision. It's not easy to make a decision. But living, we have to make a decision. And we know that the other person might be affected, might be hurt, but we still have to make a decision. We cannot do otherwise. It's very difficult to live as a human being with full conscience, with full compassion, with full rationality. And that is some thought for today on the day of mindfulness. Anyway, what is today? Date? Today is the 21? So today is the 21 of June 2020, and we are in the Dharma Bundarika Meditation Hall of the EIAB. And this is the end of the Dharma talk. Thank you.